Two little dogs sitting at a table. Is that how it should start?
It should sound like that.
I have a new theme song for you. Two little dogs. What kind of dog do you think you would be? You know, I'm a wiener dog, obviously.
You're obviously a wiener dog. I mean, I am fully enveloped in Pomeranian culture.
I thought that's what you were.
Yeah, so I think I have no choice.
Yeah, no, and you prance.
I do prance.
In a good way, yeah, and Pomeranians prance.
I'm high maintenance.
Of course. Yeah, sure.
Poor but high maintenance is a fun combo.
And that's very Pomeranian, I feel like, to be poor and high maintenance.
Yeah. That's Monty, my Pomeranian.
Yeah.
He doesn't know.
Yeah, I know. He's like, I'm living a great life.
Yeah, he's like, I have no idea how much debt she's in. Far.
He's like, what are you netting in terms of money every month?
Do you know it's so frustrating that he doesn't make me any money, as beautiful as he is?
Yeah, I mean, let's get him on Instagram.
He's on Instagram.
I don't know how things work. I'm like, how do people on TikTok and Instagram make money?
Yeah. I'm focusing on YouTube right now.
He should do ads.
He should do ads.
Monty should be like, and here a caller.
Yeah.
I mean, that on my search page on Instagram is all like wiener dog stuff. And I don't have a wiener dog. I am one, obviously.
You are one.
But I'm like, why is it advertised? Like, why?
Because that's what you're looking at, and your phone's like,
no, I know, but I'm
look.
like, why is this wiener dog advertising to me? I'm like, I'm watching biscuits. You know, I'm like, these look good.
What else is on your Discover page?
You know, unfortunately, I'm looking at a lot of like gross food that people are making.
Why is it gross?
I don't know. I think I got on some weird thing where women are like, this is what I make for my husband, and it like looks disgusting.
And you stayed on it, so it's
I
like,
don't know.
give her more.
I think I watched a few of them. I think I watched one that was like a spoof of like a trad wife that was like, here's what I make my husband. And she was like being funny by making it really like gross. And now it's constantly showing me like gross food.
Oh, no.
I don't know. Listen, this is an annoying thing to say. Not pretentious what's going to come out of my mouth in later. But I was going to say I try to stay off social media. I think it's like bad for my brain. However, the amount of games I play on my phone, it's not like I'm reading more books because I'm staying off of social media. I'm like playing any game, you name it, I play it.
I play Candy Crush, so I respect you.
Listen, I'm playing Merged. I'm doing crossword puzzles. I'm playing poker. I'm doing all kinds of. I'm playing a game where you're like shooting a stick figure in the head with an arrow.
Okay, maybe minus that last one. What with all the other ones, you're actually doing it right because that means your mental health diet is not consisting of all the social media stuff. And when it is social media stuff, it's pretty innocent even to be looking at like disgusting meals and wiener dogs.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good.
I think opening Instagram or TikTok, even though I just like, I kind of missed the boat on TikTok. It reminds me of our careers. Like it reminds me of stand-up. And then I don't want to, it's like that. So it doesn't seem fun to me. It's not like it more reminds me of like, oh, I should post clips. And then I'm like, oh, get me out of here.
Yeah.
So that's my relationship with it.
Someone the other day told me that they think that Instagram stand-up clips have just become like junk mail of the internet, that there's so many stand-up clips
totally
that no one wants to watch them anymore, and they've been ruined. Because you can like go to an open mic day one of being a comedian, tape it, throw it on the internet, and the internet is just like, oh, stand-up sucks. Why would I watch anymore?
Right. And some people have really kind of like, they've unlocked the, they're good at it. Other people, yeah, I don't know. I like Reddit. That's also freaky. Anything I want to know, I'm like, Reddit, can I take this Xanax I bought from Mexico? It's like I'm looking up all kinds. I'm like, freezing eggs are freezing eggs, and I'm reading all the. Yeah, so I'm on Reddit being like, freezing egg freezing. Mexican Xanax.
If there is a cheaper way to freeze eggs, I mean, to me, I'm like, I just went to the gyno last week, right?
Tell me, because I haven't been. So tell me everything they told you, and I'll try to use it for myself.
Well, I didn't actually ask about that. I just went for like a yearly checkup.
And how did everything look?
It was there. Everything was located. It was fast. It was a lot more, because I hadn't gone in, I think, like 3 years. It was a lot of, are you okay without somebody else being in the room? I'm going to do this now. I'm going to touch your thigh. It was just like an extra level of questions around my comfort.
Was it a woman? Not that
It was
matters,
a woman, yeah, but still, I think like post Me Too era, even the gyno has to be careful.
Yeah, they have to be careful. Yeah. Yeah, the last time I went to the gynecologist, I was having a lot of anxiety, I thought I had a UTI. This is, like, so much information for the podcast. I thought I had to pee constantly,
Mhm.
and it turned out she said that I had the tightest cervix, I'm staring at the camera, that she had
Congratulations.
ever seen, and that I was holding all of my stress inside my cervix.
I mean, most people do it in their neck, but not you.
No, I mine was and cervix not the same as vagina, so it's not that my vagina's so
Yeah.
tight, it's that my cervix is tight, and she could not even get inside of it, like,
Mhm.
she couldn't open anyway, kinda interesting.
I mean, that's, still worth bragging about.
Yes,
I have the tightest
cervix.
cervix.
Yeah, I came home, told my boyfriend, he was like, "Doesn't feel that tight to me." No. Just normal cervix.
Oh, but I should have asked her. I guess that's who you go to if you start the process, right?
Well, my question is, and I'm sure I could find the answer to this easy, and yet instead I just look up at the sky. I'm
Mhm.
sure Reddit could tell me this. Can you go to the gynecologist and can they just kind of scope your eggs? Like, can they be like, "Yeah, you got a lot of them," or do you only know that if you start the process?
No, I think you have to start at the gyno, and if it's not the gyno, maybe it's just a straight up fertility expert.
I'm just wondering if they can see that with, like, their little
Oh.
you know? Like,
Mine's not looking in there. She's only touching. She's
how
not
hard
looking.
is it to tell you, how your eggs are
Yeah,
looking? And if you feel that you look young, I feel that I look pretty young
you
for being
do.
in my 30s, does that mean your eggs are young? Or do your eggs just look young? And would
Right.
that matter?
I wonder that too. I do because I've heard that you want to ideally freeze them before 38,
Okay, yeah.
which I'm not pushing it. Got several years to
I
go,
mean, you
but
look 29.
then there's your question, right? Like, does that mean my eggs look
Yeah, that's
29?
how I feel.
But I'm
Yeah.
not shooting Botox into my eggs either. So
God, I gotta get some Botox.
I wish I didn't care.
Oh, I mean, look at the world we live in. It's not your fault for caring.
It is and it isn't. And when I try to justify it to people who are like non industry folks, I go, do you know what it's like to have to watch videos of myself all
I
day
I
long?
was saying this to my therapist that we are not meant to see ourselves from so many angles. Like, I'm
Correct.
not meant to see how my chin looks from this or, like, because you look in the mirror and you just look at yourself from that angle. And now I'm just like, I know how I look from every possible and bad photographers' angles.
Oh man, I was sent down an entire just rabbit hole of self-loathing we were just talking about Austin. I
Yeah.
was in Austin last summer and in my defense I was full of beer and barbecue and
Let her live. Let her cook.
right, yeah, I was having a great
Yeah.
time and I ran into Troy Conrad, do you know
Yeah,
him?
yeah, yeah.
And he has taken all my favorite photos of me.
Yeah.
He has taken the photo that is my cover art for this podcast.
Yeah.
And I run into him and he takes this photo of me and something about the lighting and the place where my skirt hit in my midriff. It is like the fattest looking photo of me I've ever seen. And it
Not
sent
that
me
not that there's anything wrong with
correct.
any body type, but sometimes it's like kismet where just like for whatever reason someone takes a great photo of you and you're
Mhm.
just like this is the best possible photo and they might not even be professional. And then the opposite. Like I'll go to a lot of trouble to look good and it'll be like a professional and I'll be like this is the worst photo ever taken. And
Yeah.
it's like why? Why?
And it's tough to be we're both petite. I'm 5'1". It doesn't take a lot in the right angle for me to just, like, look like a grape.
Right. I have a very round face. I hear that,
Same.
which does age better. But I feel like some angles, I'm like, I look like a beach ball, like swollen. I think I don't drink enough water. I eat too much salt. I'm kind of like, what's going on? I'm getting round. I'm turning into a pumpkin.
I feel that way too, and now I'm gua shaing, and I'm like, "Is
What does that
this"
mean?
Oh, I do think that it's, like, cultural appropriation, but it's when you take, like, either a rose quartz or a jade, one of those, like,
Oh, okay.
things, and you
Okay.
just
I
start
ordered.
massaging your
Yeah.
lymph nodes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I
It's
Amazon
fun.
gets me and
Yeah.
TikTok gets me where I'll be like, yeah, I gotta order this tape that goes around your cheeks, and then you
Oh,
feel
I've
so
seen that
stupid.
where people wear it and it just looks like a bandage. It looks like you just got home from a
I think I'm
facelift.
affected by a placebo. So I like the idea of thinking I'm doing something that same with like I take zero point 0.5 milligrams of Lexapro and the um therapeutic dose is 10 milligrams. Zero point 0.5 is
Oh.
literally licking a pill. Like
Oh.
it means nothing, does nothing. I forget it 10 times a week. I forget it. I forget it half the time. But the placebo idea of, like, taking something and being like, "Anxiety gone," seems to work for me.
Agreed. I've been doing red light therapy, and I don't know if that's necessarily effective either. And there's a lot of convoluted evidence out there that maybe like some red light therapy is really helpful, but it depends which red light thing you bought. And I'm like, oh, did my $40 contraption that I ordered off Amazon, it's probably not really giving the benefits that they say that
What
like
is
proper red
what
light
is
does.
red light therapy?
It's supposed to help heal faster.
Okay,
So the theory behind exposing your skin to it and your face to it is that it's supposed to like help collagen be stimulated
okay.
and therefore like
But
help
is it
from the
like a
inside out.
little machine?
I don't have the face mask one. I
Okay,
have
okay,
it kind of looks like I don't know, it's like a handheld device. Um it almost looks like a computer mouse, but then
okay.
with this extension that goes on your
Alright,
face that's a bar.
sponsor this podcast.
Yeah, they really ought to. And it just, like, massages your face, and so you go like this, and there's heat, and it's helpful with
I mean, I like the
allegedly
idea
aging.
of I spend, 1 day a week probably at the Korean spa, and I like when
Oh,
they take off my skin.
you're going that often?
I call it my office. I get
That's so
so much
cool.
work done. Something about I'm, like, in there with my notebook in the sauna, like, I'm
Mhm.
a freak. Something about being in the heat and having to put away your phone, it's like, I feel like I've gone into another dimension, and I
Oh,
like
you're
it.
a fellow sauna lady, I love
I'm a
it.
sauna girl, I'm a jacuzzi girl.
Me too.
I'm only happy 2 times, and it's either if I'm in a jacuzzi or if I'm playing poker.
I love
Maybe
that.
having sex, but not even.
Not with that tight
Eating.
ass cervix of
No,
yours.
it actually doesn't affect sex. Okay.
No, I'm really spoiled because I have a sauna in my
Oh,
building.
yeah, I forgot that.
Mhm, so
Can I
I've
come to your building?
come to my building and move in with me.
Do you have a jacuzzi too?
Yeah.
Ugh, that's nice.
I'm very, very lucky. So I have the sauna. What I'll do is I'll crank it up before I go to the gym and then I'll do my workout. So by the time I'm done with my workout and I go sit in the sauna, it's hot enough that my nail polish hurts. And that's what I want. I want it to be so hot that my nail polish is
Okay,
frying
see,
me, my necklace is
I'm
burning.
more of a sissy than you. Like, I can only stay but hot water, I can stay in longer. The
Yeah.
sauna, I'm like but I like to get out. I go in, I get out, I go in. That kinda do you go to the Korean spa ever?
I've been there a couple of
Yeah, we
times,
should
but
go.
I'm on the west side, so it's quite the trek.
Oh, right, I forgot that.
I would have to
I
make
wonder
an
if they have
excursion of it
one on the yeah, I mean, when I go, I stay, like,
all day,
20 hours, yeah.
as you should.
I mean, and I think all my close friends, I need to see both sets of lips. It's I need so we really I need to see naked. I've met friends for the first time at the Korean spa where, like, another friend brings them, and then
That's
you
amazing.
meet naked, and then you're like, "Now we have a bond
Yeah,
forever." The Korean spa should,
they
sponsor
should
me.
sponsor you and the podcast.
Yeah, yeah. Sponsor this podcast.
The Korean spa should build a podcast studio,
Oh my god.
and then you film naked, but then you blur
There
it.
is so much I want to do from there. Like, I wish I could teach from there. I do stuff that, like, seems demented. Like, I have, like, my computer, like, in the sauna. Like, it's crazy. No,
Oh,
I don't, but I bring a, like, Kindle and
okay. I was gonna say because I bought special headphones so that I don't ruin my headphones in the sauna, and then I leave my phone outside the room too because it's bad for
smart,
your phone.
smart. Yeah, no, I don't I keep my phone away, but I bring, like, a waterproof.
Are you cold plunging?
I'm a little bit of a sissy for that. Should I be cold plunging?
Not if you don't want to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
What I supposed to
it's
have
not
benefits.
as it definitely has benefits, but then
Everything is benefits,
everything has benefits,
and
but
I
also it's
refuse
not
to
good
do it.
hormonally for some women.
Really?
Yeah.
Kinda makes some
I just think that the stress of it, if you're already prone to stress and if you
yeah,
have
yeah,
excessive
yeah.
cortisol as is, you
Okay,
maybe
yeah.
don't wanna
I
be
think my
doing that.
cortisol's already, like I'm trying to, like I wanna be sedated.
Mine's better since I got off birth control.
Oh, yeah, I'm not on birth control.
That'll do it. But,
I'm
you know.
looking at I don't even know what camera, I keep looking at the camera. I'm using the pull-out method, not a method.
Back to the egg freezing, some people's jobs are paying for it.
I know. I'm, like, freelance. I have 10 jobs.
Same.
They talk about, like, you get a job on Amazon, and then you
Mhm.
can, like, freeze your eggs, and then
Then
yeah.
skedaddle.
Yeah, and then yeah.
But are they giving those benefits to people, like, delivering packages?
I don't
Because I don't know what
know.
job at Amazon I'm qualified for.
Maybe, like, in the warehouse. I was just talking with a friend about, like, what would be the worst job for you? And I'm like, mine, I think, would be, like, at a moving company, but
Yeah.
I think I'm, like, fun to talk to, so I was thinking I would have a company called Slow Move, like, if you need to move, but I can do it really slowly, like, one package, like, one thing at a time, but I also have no upper body strength. Yeah, I'd be bad at farming, I'd honestly be bad at a lot of stuff, moving, farming.
I couldn't do anything in the healthcare space. I'm very bad at touching people.
Really?
Yeah, and I learned that there was a very brief moment this year where I was working at like a psychotherapy type office and I was
Like,
doing
behind the front desk?
no, I was just covering oh my gosh, why am I blanking on the acronym? Um it's when you put those the pulsating machine on someone's head and you're doing therapy that way on them. You put this machine on their
EMDR? Is that what it is?
no, because that's the eye movement
Oh,
one,
oh, oh.
but it's very, very similar. Oh, it's driving me nuts that I can't think
I
of
don't
it.
know.
But anyway, it's this
It was
like
your job to put it on their head?
it was my job to put it on their head. I was just covering for a guy that normally does it, and it was my job to like measure the person's skull because the machine that does the therapy has to go on like a certain spot in their skull. I cannot believe that I'm blanking on what this is called. It's so embarrassing. Anywho, I try to sound smart on my podcast, and I'm like, oh, da 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 da.
That happens to me
The
too.
thing that helps with depression.
I take too much Tylenol PM, and now I
Yeah.
think I have dementia, early onset dementia.
I mean,
The Tylenol PM, sponsor me. I take you every night. I can't sleep. I have insomnia. Uh,
but anyways, yeah, even just the act of like putting this sock thing on the person's head that had the markings of where the machine was going to go,
that freaked you out.
it freaked me out. It felt so foreign to me. It was the first moment that I even realized that I've never had a job where I've had to touch people.
Really? I guess it
Yeah.
is strange to touch people for a job.
And it's not just healthcare, right? It's if you work at a salon, if you're a makeup artist, if you're
Mm,
doing nails, if you're a massage, like there's so many industries where you
I
touch
don't know that
customers.
I long to touch random people. However, there are a lot of jobs I'd be worse at. I've no sense of direction. I'd be
Mm,
a bad tour guide,
I think I
bad
would
at
be a good
math,
tour
bad
guide.
at science. Do you mind when people hug you?
It depends who.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not one of those people who wants to give, like, a random person a hug.
Oh, no, and I'll catch myself being really awkward, like, I was leaving the Comedy Store the other night, and there were a few people I had hugged because it just they kinda, like, went for it
But
also.
yeah, you're not, like, wanting to necessarily
No,
yeah.
unless it's someone that I'm, like, so excited to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
hugging,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is 5 people in the world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. You'll hug me.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
one of the 5.
You're one of the 5.
Yeah, I only wanna hug someone when I wanna hug them.
Yeah.
I don't like when someone comes at you kind of with an aggressive hug vibe.
Oh,
You gotta
it's intrusive.
it's gotta be equal. Like, I should wanna hug you as much as you wanna hug me.
I mean, that's a great place to start.
Listen, that's called consent. Hug. I'm educating the people about hug consent.
Do you have any pet peeves with interactions with people?
Hmm. That's a good question. I mean, I used to not like baby talk, but something's kind of turned in me, I think, recently where uh with maybe like a boyfriend,
Mhm.
I will say things that I think would be humiliating for someone else to hear, you know. But so that some pet peeves have changed for me. What do I not like when people do? I don't know. I'm only thinking of myself and stuff that I would like to change, habits.
Yeah.
I bite my nails. I'd like to stop. I'm trying to be a better listener, and not have that feeling of like being paranoid of dead air so
Mm.
that while someone's talking, you're thinking about the next thing you want to say and instead just actually like active listening. Luke Mona is great at that. If he's friend of the pod, maybe he's somebody who listens so well,
Mhm.
it like takes you by surprise. It almost he says that people get like paranoid. They're like, "Why are you
Oh.
listening so good?" Like he's so good at it. And I think part of it is just being more comfortable with silence
The podcast is teaching me to do that because I have to
and
be
not
so
like
conscious.
fill all every
Exactly, and not talking over people, and I notice it particularly when I go to record on Zoom. it's this, like, panic takes place where I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm doing it again. Galina, stop doing that."
But it's also yeah, it's like, I think if you're a performer I find it when I'm, like, teaching too or when I'm doing my book clubs for rich women. If it's quiet at all, I'll feel like I need to be like, "And what did you guys think about this character?" And then I'm like, they can be quiet for 1 second. These 60-year-old women can be quiet with their own thoughts without you needing to fill the time.
They might even be craving it for all you know.
They might even be craving it.
I really
Exactly.
enjoy silence in my friendships. That's how I know I'm, like, super comfortable with someone is if we can
Yes,
just sit around and not try to fill dead air, and I find that with my most anxious friends, they can't sit in the silence with me, and then
yeah.
I feel their discomfort,
And
and
then you're
it's
like, "I gotta say
yeah.
something." Yeah, no, I think a good friendship, you can be quiet for a while. Same with, like, romantic relationship, that you should just be able to it's like this thing of a double thing of I wanna be able to both say whatever comes into my mind. I think the most perfect relationships or the ideal relationships are relationships where there is no space between a thought and a word. Like, it's almost like talking to them feels like thinking, my closest relationships, but then also that you don't feel that you always need to be talking.
Yeah, you need to have the silence element needs to be there and feel comfortable, and I would even argue soothing, and then also you want it to be at a place where, like, you don't feel like you're filtering yourself with your partner. Because
Totally.
if you're filtering yourself, you're not being authentic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true of friendships too, that you wanna be able to just kind of say anything that comes into your head.
Oh, for sure, and sometimes vile things come into my head, and I'm like, "Can
And
I
you wanna
say
say
this without
them.
judgment?"
And yes, say them here.
Yeah.
Say
No,
them
don't
in
say them here
This is how you get canceled, you cancel
before
yourself.
I've even cancelable.
Are people you still using the phrase cancel?
Yeah, I think so, but I can't think of the last time I used it.
Yeah.
Because no one's saying, "Okay, so here's a really relevant topical thing," but, nobody's saying cancel him, but the whole P. Diddy thing. But I have yet
Mhm.
to hear a conversation where everyone's like, "Well, don't listen to his music."
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, but that's different because I feel like he's about to go to, like, big time prison,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
That's almost saying, like, "Jeffrey Epstein, should we cancel him?"
Yeah, right. That's true.
Tom Takar has this great joke, shout out to Tom, friend of the pod, about, that's how you know a comedian's not a real job. I'm gonna butcher his joke because like,
Mhm.
you can't like, you could never cancel a roofer. Like, a roofer just comes and, like, does the roof. Like, no one's gonna cancel a roofer. But, like, "Oh, you got canceled as a comedian." It's like, "Yeah, because it's not a real fucking job. This is also stupid."
Yeah.
I'm like, "I should've gone into roofing."
But you can cancel a doctor. Well,
Yeah,
back
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
professions where you touch people, you can cancel those people.
Yeah, no, you can cancel a professor for sure.
Yeah.
I know that's not a profession where people touch
It
You're
shouldn't be.
supposed to when a student comes into your office.
You're supposed to touch them?
No, you're supposed to leave the door open,
Oh.
but I don't. If it's,
Mhm,
like, a female student who's, like, about to cry,
mhm.
she's, like, going through something, I'm like, "Just shut the door, who cares?"
I would
Y
imagine you're like this relatable beacon to your female students.
If they wanna cry, I'm like, "You can cry here," and then they'll apologize for crying, and I'm like, "What do I care? You think I haven't been cried to before? You think I haven't cried in here?" College is so, I think, it's like cry time.
It is, and I didn't do enough of it while I was there.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I think, it's it's so interesting just thinking back to being in college and, like, what a particular time it is that you're, like, away from home and trying to sort of figure yourself out and what your life is gonna be like, and I don't know. And now I'm like, no wonder they're so stressed out. It's like, what a crazy time to be 19 or 20 and think like, "How am I gonna make a living?"
There's such a sensation during that age where you think you know everything, which is, like, the most dangerous period, right? Like,
Yeah.
your frontal cortex isn't done till 25. We know that
Okay,
finally,
you
but I
sound very
certainly
smart.
thank you. I didn't know that back then.
Yeah.
Um, and so there's this, like, confidence/arrogance that the decisions you're making are gonna be the decisions that you're still gonna be making 5 years down the line, 10 years
Yeah.
down the line.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that I had at least a little bit of wherewithal as far as, like, the direction that I picked in
Mm.
college, but I was in, like, my worst romantic relationships
Mm.
were at
Oh,
that
I think that
age.
happens a lot. Yeah.
I
Or
mean,
they're
s
really depressed
yeah.
and then they're judgmental because everyone has told them judgmental of themselves because everyone's told them this is supposed to be the best time of their lives. And they're like, I'm having a terrible time. And I'm like, I personally liked after college so much better. I was like in a sorority, like, drinking too much and, like, sleeping with guys who didn't care if I lived or died, you
Yeah.
know? Like, I was much happier after when I became a writer and a comedian, but this pressure to kind of have it all figured out, I think, is, like, a lot.
Did you know you wanted to write and do stand-up in
I
college?
did, but I didn't, like, get it together, you know? I was, like, an English major, and I felt lonely even though I was surrounded by people, and I read a lot of books, and I had this inkling of what I wanted to do, but I just don't think I had it together in the way my so many of my students seem to now. But I also, like, we didn't have
We didn't have the tools they have.
yeah, I didn't have access to kind of, but at the same time, I think all the access they have, it can be like decision paralysis. Like they're like, "Yeah, I wanna make art, but, like, look at all the art that's already out there on my phone. I'm gonna add to this?" Whereas
Yeah.
I was, like, in a vacuum. I was just reading books being like, "Yeah, I guess I could try to write one."
That's good that you at least knew that. I'm lucky that I just knew that I, like, had this awareness that I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I
Mm.
thought it was real estate because I had, like, gotten my real estate license when I was
That's
18 or
so
19,
I mean, that's how I feel like I know that you came from an immigrant family. Is like, that's so
because what 18-year-old gets a real
truly,
estate
like, that's so
license?
practical,
Yeah.
to be like, how will I make a living with the skills that I have? Real
Mhm.
estate.
Yeah. 'Cause I knew at that point that it was never gonna be law school and it was never
Right,
gonna be medical school, so
right.
I was like, "Oh, okay, real estate will never go obsolete," and I give my 18-year-old brain a lot of
No,
credit for
honestly.
understanding that at that point, and then as far as college, I was like, "Well, if I have to go, let me do the most baseline thing," so I was a business management major with a marketing minor.
See, that's also very
The
practical.
most white bread decision I've made that, maybe arguably is helping me. I'm technically an
I'm sure
entrepreneur, but
in many ways. When did you know you wanted to do stand-up?
not
Like,
till
did
I
you
was
know in
25.
college?
No, no, I didn't even really recognize it as an art form, which maybe sounds crazy, but it was like I didn't really watch stand up at all. I
Mm,
knew who like Dane Cook was.
mm.
And then in college, I went to see Bob Saget, RIP, just
Oh my
because it was like
god.
something to go do.
Yeah.
And it was fun, but it was also
You
not
weren't like, "That should be me."
100%. It was
Yeah.
not like that should be me. And then I was working for like events staffing at our college, and like Aziz Ansari came through, and was like part of that show as well. But to me at that point, he was an actor first and foremost. So once again, I didn't like make that correlation of, oh, he's a
Yeah.
stand up and that's a
Yeah.
legitimate
Also, why
career.
would you know that he'd, like, started out in stand-up unless you had
No,
followed his career?
exactly. I hadn't. And then at 25, this is so dramatic, but having a quarter life crisis of kind of, falling in and out of real estate. I was working like real estate adjacent office jobs that were just
I don't think
really
I knew
painful.
that you did real estate.
Yeah, and I kind of technically still, as far as my notary business,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is
yeah.
real estate. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that is what my background is in. But when I moved out to LA, I was working at a property management company and it was
Property Brothers.
awful. I wish it was that. It was a high-rise building where I was just paying invoices for copper to be replaced that was stolen out of buildings in Riverside County. Like, that was my whole job.
Yeah.
It was a cubicle job. It had been my worst nightmare. Absolutely no offense to anybody that has a cubicle job, but I just, like, knew in my heart that that was not for me.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted to do
And
at
then you
all.
started kind of being like, "Oh, what could I do that is not a cubicle, that is the kind of things I'm interested in?"
Yeah, that was that on a conscious level, I didn't know I was there, but
Mm.
on a subconscious level, I was looking for it, and then one night, October or November of 2014, which is so crazy because now I'm coming up on 10 years, I
Congratulations.
thank you, I was dragged to a comedy show at the store, and I was like, "This is a job?
Yeah.
Are these people doing this for a living?" And that
Yeah.
was when it clicked. I was like, "Oh, if that's a job, maybe I want that job," and here we are.
Mm. Yeah, I think I was a little bit more like I had kind of a larger, in a negative way, ego, I think. And I
Mm,
remember seeing a boy in a fraternity do like a comedy night and looking around at everyone laughing and thinking I would do a better job than this guy. Like
yeah,
that should be me. Like having that thought that I still felt like I couldn't tell anyone, you
mhm,
know? But I was like class clown in high school. So I was like, I'd already had whatever kind of strange childhood stuff makes you funny, like,
right.
makes you the funny one, you
Well,
know?
having to placate parents and
Exactly,
if
like,
there's
my dad had a lot
conflict.
of anxiety, um, yeah, I was like a peacemaker in my family. I got a autoimmune disease at 9, and it's sort of like, I don't know, just a bunch of things kind of accumulated, I think, to make me funny. But it's I think a pattern I've been figuring out about myself that I'm trying to change is how often I will have a thought and then act on it 10 years later, either because of shame or fear or because I can't quite like figure out how to see my way, whether it's like wanting out of a relationship that takes me a really long time, out of a living situation, out of a sorority that I
Mhm.
don't want to be in, that I will like have a thought and then act on it so much later. And yeah, I would like to decrease the space between the thought and the action.
Yeah. But you have to know that it's valid. Maybe it shouldn't take you as long to know that, like, your feelings are valid. Maybe that's it, is you're
Yeah,
thinking it and going, "Whatever, it's just a thought. There's nothing here behind it," but there is.
right. My therapist is always like, "I love to talk to you about therapy." We always talk about
We
therapy.
always talk about therapy.
My therapist is always like, "You always get there." Like,
Mhm.
maybe it's about accepting how slow you move and not, like, shaming yourself for it. But I'm still like, "I should move faster." Like, "Why do I gotta move so slow?" Like, it's fucking annoying. I get annoyed with myself, tired of my slowness, you
Yeah.
know?
I wouldn't have, interpreted that as being an issue for you, even though, like, you have told me that. I know you've been living at, like, the same place for a really long time and
Yeah,
that.
I have trouble kind of with change,
Mhm.
and then, yeah, I think I have trouble acting on I think it's, like, trusting your instincts, self-trust, all that stuff that, like, we work on in
Yeah.
our various 12 steps.
At least you know about
Uh,
it. I had kind of, just like a little bit of a earth-shattering is far too dramatic of a way to describe it, but the last conversation I had with my therapist was a little more eye-opening than I would have liked.
how often do you see your
I
therapist?
only see her once a month now.
Okay, and this
Yeah.
is the therapist that you had for a really
I've
long
been
time
working
and you
with
really
her
like?
for a long time, yeah.
Yeah.
So she knows me really
Oh,
well.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's like my longest yeah.
it's your longest relationship.
Not true. I've had friends kind of like
Yeah.
since childhood, but the fact that when I think about what my therapist has seen me through, I'm
Mhm.
like, "Well, this bitch has seen a lot." Anyway, continue.
Anyway, she, has been hearing a lot from me, obviously, about 12 steps since I'm, like, new to that, and that's my
Mm,
newest form of, recovery and growth, and to me, I'm like,
yeah,
"That's
because you
free
are
therapy."
somebody who's always like I think of you as being always working on evolving and, like,
It's
learning about
exhausting,
yourself.
yes.
No, in a way that I'm always like,
Mhm.
What can she recommend me that's gonna help me? Like, what kind of you got me into some wacky podcast." So I'm like, "She's gonna know some podcast, some self-help thing because I like that kinda thing too. I think the world can feel so, chaotic and like I have so little control, and maybe one of the things you have control over is, like, bettering yourself.
Yes and no. So it's funny that you say that because now when I tell you what my therapist said to me, you're gonna understand why that's hilarious. So obviously I've been talking to her about 12 step for the last couple months since I started doing it. And she kind of just like, first of all, she doesn't say a lot to me. She always kind of makes me say whatever the insight is. She'll like just kind of
Mine does
lead
that
me to the
too. Mine
river,
is
but
we sometimes are
yeah.
in so much silence. I think she
So
helps
much
me with
silence.
yeah.
Same. So if she says
Yeah.
something, it's kind of crazy that she's even saying something to
Dr.
begin with.
Barbara, my therapist.
But she goes, "Galina, I'm worried about you." And I'm like, "Oh shit."
That would floor me.
Yeah. Not in like I'm not suicidal,
No,
nothing like
of
that,
course, of course, of course.
But this is what she said. She goes, "I'm worried about you because every time I talk to you, you come in here excited about some new tool that you learned that you use to be mean to yourself." So she kinda stopped me in my tracks of like, yeah, I'm a little too self-help, podcast
Mm,
this, therapy that, meditation this,
and that you're
like I'll do
using
too
it
much.
but it's interesting that she's the phrase that you use it to be mean to yourself.
Yeah.
Is it because you don't do it enough and then you become guilty about it? Or it's like you literally use the tool to
It's
punish
this.
yourself?
This is the argument that I'm using each tool as a way to continue to do mental gymnastics to intellectualize my way out of my feelings. So she's like, "Oh, you're just using 12-step now as a way to be like, oh, nobody who's an alcoholic or an addict should be hurting your feelings because you should be in such great control of your feelings that it doesn't matter what people do to you." She's trying to
Ah.
like pave the road for me to be okay with things hurting my feelings
Mm,
instead of me being like, "What self-help book
mm.
can I use to just like soothe my feelings and make them go away?"
That's
But
so
that's so
interesting.
tough it's so much easier said than done. I think I'm doing a better job at feeling my
Yeah.
feelings, but
And,
at the
like,
end of the
sitting with
day,
pain.
yeah.
Of
But I
course, now I'm
can't
like, "Oh,
not
I gotta send you this
intellectualize out of them.
podcast about self-compassion." Where this
I've
woman's
probably
telling
heard
you to
it.
touch where you hurt and
Yeah.
and tell yourself that you love yourself. It's, like, so
Yeah.
kooky. But still, I'm like, "I love
Mhm. And now I'm doing both,
myself."
but I
Yeah.
also think that it came out as intensely as it did and with her being like, "Hey, I'm worried about you," because she's the place I come into to say all those worst things. So,
Yeah.
like, of course, she's hearing me be the meanest version of
Of
myself
course, of
because I'm
course.
like, "Well, that's why I'm paying you and I'm seeing you once a month." Like, of course, I'm being so critical of myself in here with you because I don't know what else to say.
But also, I think you don't always know how critical your inner voice is until you say it aloud to somebody else.
That's
And then you're
true.
like, "Oh, I would never say that about a friend."
Right.
What I say to myself and how hard I am on myself or
Mhm.
how much I shame myself for every feeling I have. Because I think, I mean, that isn't that like the whole meditation and what you're always is like to let feelings come and go
Mhm.
and emotions come and go without putting judgment and stories on them.
Right, treating them like clouds.
Is that what they say? Clouds? Yeah, or like
That's the
boats in a
meditation
mm.
lesson is that you should be observing thoughts as clouds and
As
that the
opposed to being
clouds
like, I'm always like, of course this thought again, you dumb bitch.
right. But you're not supposed to let any thought be your identity is
Okay.
the core of it is that the clouds don't change the sky. You're the sky. The sky is
Mm,
your consciousness.
mm.
And the clouds are going to come and go and you're supposed to observe because if you're not observing it and acknowledging it that means you're like stuffing it down, which also my background Soviet slash
That's what
Midwestern
you do.
upbringing. That's what
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, she has a point, but I also think it just came off so harsh and it just like fucked me up the whole week I was thinking about it. I was like, oh my God, she said she's worried about me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I know. Every now and then, my therapist will be like, I don't know if harsh, I guess. And she'll be like, I have a tendency to dwell and not make a decision, but like dwell in a kind of gray area of unhappiness about something but too afraid to make like this choice or this choice. And then she'll kind of be like, so your choices are either remain in this situation and continue to torture yourself or make a change and see what happens. And I'm like, "Ugh, those are my choices? Like that's how you're gonna put it to me?" Which of course is like, yes, obvious. But hearing somebody kind of like spell it out for you.
How much of that is like your writer brain though?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think isn't that part of it though that like we use against ourselves the way our brain works? Like that's what happens to me too when I'm having trouble making a decision. I'll be like, yeah, but you overthink so much and blah, blah, blah. As opposed to just like taking the first loud i- voice that comes from me, like instead of just hearing it and listening and trusting it, I argue with it and do mental
Mm.
gymnastics. And I'm like, but this and this and this. And this. Yeah.
Do you think you don't trust your intuition?
Yeah, for sure. I'm working on it, but I mean,
That's
I grew
something
up,
I'm okay at, like definitely better at trusting my
yeah,
intuition.
I'm like, yeah, I think that is kind of my big thing is like self trust. I grew up in a house of like anxious Jews who were like, no, no, whatever
At
you're thinking,
everything.
no. Yeah,
Yeah.
literally everything. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. No, no, let me tell you how to do it.
Have you noticed, as far as like intuition with people, that you'll have maybe just like a weird inkling of a bad feeling about somebody,
Yeah,
talk yourself out of it, and then end up being right?
I think so. I mean, I think for better or worse, one of my good qualities, I think, is that I'm like, um, open-minded maybe to a fault. This idea of like the reader in me, the writer in me is like everybody has a kind of background and trauma that makes them the way they are. And so I'm willing to maybe do a lot of gymnastics of like this person's a difficult person to be around because they went through this and this and this, and because this, and if I went through what they did, I would be the same way. And so, yeah, sometimes it gets, I think the boundaries thing can
Mhm.
get tricky of like, when do I need to protect whatever versus I do like that about myself. I like the part
It's
of
so
me
compassionate.
and I have a deep curiosity, and sometimes it's like curiosity, like, killed the cat. Like, I will
Mhm.
get myself into some weird situations of things that I agree to just through sheer curiosity, that I think maybe a different person would be like, "How did you get into this situation?" Like, all the yeses that you said to get there, you know?
Okay,
So,
so
do you feel that you have intuitions about people?
I definitely do, and, to an extent, I've always had an awareness that first of all, I know I'm super judgmental. I've been told time and time again.
I don't think of
Oh, I
you
am.
as a judgmental person in the way you move through the world.
Well,
I'm
thank
sure
you.
in your
That's
mind,
nice
but
to hear. I definitely am, and a lot of it, it just comes from, like, a place of fear, like so many other
and
things.
you're judgmental of yourself. And if
I'm
you're
so
judgmental of
judgmental.
yourself, it's
Yeah.
hard not to be judgmental of other people.
1,000%, but it's almost always it comes down to safety for me.
Mm.
But then I read, Gavin de Becker's, The Gift of Fear.
Oh yeah,
Do you know
I
about this
need
book?
to look into that. I have no I the way I don't fear. I'm like running through MacArthur Park at like 2 a.m.
Oh,
being
no.
like, no one can get me. I'm so hard to kidnap. I'm tiny.
That book made me feel okay and gave me permission to be me in my intuition about people
Well,
because
especially if it's
it's so good.
proven right. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that sometimes somebody makes a bad impression, or like there are certainly people I meet who like, they make great impressions and then they turn out to a lot of comics. They turn out
Mhm.
to be like kind of screw
Sociopath.
loose. Yeah. Or the opposite of like someone comes off what I think is like lacking in warmth and like standoffish and like like, you know, icy maybe. And then later you realize, oh, that person is like fearful that other people aren't going to like them or judgmental. And then you're like, oh, they give a bad first impression. But once you get to know them, they're so, and I think maybe too much, I'm willing to kind of give someone a second impression, you
Mhm.
know?
I'm trying to when it's obvious that it's not a safety concern,
Yeah,
but when it comes to safety stuff, I just always lean back on, oh, if I have the tiniest
that
inkling.
makes sense. It's like, what are you gonna like, get in some guy's car?
Right. But I know people that will.
Yeah, I mean, listen, did I meet a man at a recording studio, an older British man who paid me money just to watch him sing?
Well, that's not fair because that accent, I'll listen to anything.
Well, and, yeah, did I not tell anyone where I was going? Because I thought they would try to talk me out of it, and I was very curious to kind of see, and yes, was I the guest of honor, and I thought there would be more people from the college I teach at, and it turns out there was one guest of honor, and it
Oh,
was only me.
oh no.
Yeah, of course, yeah, and it was weird, and my therapist was like, "Why did you why? Like, why would you agree to that?" And I was like, "Why wouldn't I?" Like, it was I don't know. I think I need to be better about, like, yeah, having fear.
There's a good middle ground between
Yes.
what you're doing and what I'm doing, which is like entirely icing out people at the
In what
second I think something is dangerous.
are there situations that you've, and I don't know if maybe you can't, like, name names or talk on
Mhm.
the pod, but where you feel like, "Oh, I thought something was gonna be dangerous that wasn't?"
Yes, 1,000%. I definitely won't say the name, but it's someone I've been thinking about
Maybe,
lately.
like, someone who wanted to, like, go on a date or something?
Yeah, it was someone who was like, kind of felt like he was negging me almost.
Mm.
And
But that's also just, like, that's bad flirting.
it's
Like, that's
bad
on you,
flirting.
you turned me
Sure.
off.
Sure. 1,000%. But what I
I
also
hate
didn't know
negging.
then, yeah, same. I didn't realize also like he purposely kind of presents a personality of being like a little abrasive. It's like his thing,
Ugh.
but it's like a defense mechanism.
Fine, whoever
Anyway,
this guy is sounds awful. I'm
he's
like, "Get
awful, but
it?"
we're nice to each other now. Like, anyway, there was
Okay.
a ton of friction, like, when I first met him, and I was like, "Fuck this guy. Why is anybody nice to him? He's so
Mhm.
rude to me always." And I
Mhm.
think he was rude to me because maybe he had a crush on me or something. I hate to say that because it sounds so
Sure, it's
egotistical.
true.
And now that we're like nicer to each other, I'm like, oh, I should have just been nicer to him back then.
Have you ever asked him?
No.
That's so interesting. Have you ever been like, "You used to be a dick to me?"
No, because I think anybody would feel that way. I'll tell you off air who it
Okay.
is.
Yeah,
You'll be like, "Oh, he's a dick to everybody."
I'm so curious who it is.
Uh, I've had a few of those. I've had people in the comedy community. There was one guy who always rubs me the wrong way,
Mm.
and everyone was like, "Give him some space, like just give him some consideration. He's autistic.
Oh
He's
god.
this."
I'm sorry not to be,
Mhm.
what's the word? Ableist, but
Yeah.
I'm like, some people are just weird.
My dad is autistic.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
doesn't
you
know,
said
but the
he
rest
doesn't
of
know.
us
I
do.
think my dad my dad's got some screw loose.
Yeah. But
Uh,
anyway, that's what everybody was saying. They were all like, "Oh, don't worry about him. Don't be so annoyed with him. Like, give him grace. He's autistic." So I gave him grace, and turns out he was like spiking women's drinks. And
oh
I'm like,
my
"Aha! I was
god.
right. I was fucking right.
Yeah,
It's
so,
not
like,
about the autism."
you've been, like, proven true a lot, your
Hmm.
instincts, so that also
Unfortunately,
must make you I'm
I've also
also
had terrible situations where like a job that I worked, something horrible happened in one of the apartments that I was touring right after I was in there. Like a violent crime happened to a woman that was in there. I had peeping toms my first year in California. Like I've had dangerous things
yeah,
happen to me that
yeah,
unfortunately imprinted in a way
yeah.
where I'm like, okay, this is just, I know the word triggering gets thrown around a lot, but like
No,
that's
but
how I
that makes
feel with
sense.
dangerous people.
But it also kind of it sounds like the triggering is sort of, like, useful, like, you're
Oh, yeah, it has
mostly
protected me for
yeah,
sure.
for sure, and
I'd
that
rather be
maybe
rude and safe than
yeah,
nice and sorry.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Also, you can always, like, apologize later
Exactly.
and
I
be like,
won't,
"Sorry,
but
I was sorry, I misjudged you." Yeah.
I'd rather people just
I
think
mean,
I'm, like, icy.
I'm thinking more in terms of just, like okay, I've been using a a chart in my head recently. This is for
Oh,
comedians,
say more.
actors, writers. You know, I'm, like, attracted to kooky people
Mhm.
'cause it's like we meet so many kooky people, right? But I think there's positive kooky where, like, I can name some people after this where, like, they're weird, but, like, you get a kick out of them or you
Mhm.
enjoy them. And then there's neutral kooky, and I'm using kooky as a real kind of umbrella term.
Yeah.
But
A
there's, like,
character.
a character, yes. There's you can't quite decide, and then there's, like, sinister kooky, where they're, like, weird in a way that's, like, you're like, "Oh, this is a" I mean, again, it's so hard for me to I think anybody who is a really kind of not nice or upsetting person to be around is so often, like, in pain. So it's always it's so hard for me to just be like, "This is a bad person," because 'cause I'm quick to be like, "But I'm sure they've been through a lot and they're" but I'm lately I've been like, "Okay, I gotta move this kooky neutral into kooky negative, or I'm moving kooky neutral into kooky positive." It's like, we meet so many how do you say it? Like, people get into stand-up for a variety of reasons and get into I don't act, but, like, I know a lot of
Mhm.
actors in LA, like, I don't think you want to perform if you've had a maybe
We're all making up for something.
perfectly reasonable childhood.
Yeah,
Not that
absolutely.
is there any childhood in the history of the world that has not wounded a person?
No
No.
way.
No way, but, like, my boyfriend, for instance, who's had a pretty normal childhood, like, he would be too shy to perform, like,
Mhm.
doesn't sound good to him. The fact that it sounds good to us
Yeah.
and that we have, like, dedicated our lives, I think we're around maybe some of the most interesting people, the kookiest people, and also maybe some of the most, like, in pain people, damaged
And we're
people.
all trying to fill a void, and it
And
yeah.
then maybe, like, also I don't know, I've been thinking about this lately, like, I don't does the does your ambition, um, parallel how, like, damaged you are? I don't know.
I think it does. I'm definitely a person that looks at someone like David Goggins, and
I
I'm
don't know who that is.
oh, he's, like a figurehead of go run 40 miles even if your knees are shattering.
Oh, okay,
Like,
okay, okay.
he's that
Okay.
guy. He's, like, the motivation guy.
Is he like a Tony Robbins type, like, motivational speaker?
Yes and no, because I don't think Tony Robbins is, like, running until his toes fall off,
Okay, okay.
whereas, like, David Goggins is, and to
But that's
me,
his job. He's like a
that
motivational
yeah,
okay.
yeah. But I'm like, "What are you running away from?"
Yeah. That's how I feel. That's how I feel, that it may be, like and my desire for, I don't know, things that I once wanted, I think as I get a little bit more healthy, evolved. The desire's a little bit tamped down.
Mhm.
My workaholicism maybe gets tamped down,
Do you think that's
good
age
or bad.
also, right?
Maybe, maybe. I mean, also, I think maybe the more things I accomplish, maybe the less I feel I have to prove. Um, but as I say this, it's like I lay awake at night because my novel's late. Like it's not like I'm evolved in any and I'm still in that constant grind of like once I get this, once I succeed at this, I'll be calmer.
Mhm.
And
But
I
once now that you've succeeded at some of those
it
things, are
but
you
in no,
calmer?
exactly. And
Yeah.
I think that's also the knowledge I'm starting to take is that
Mhm.
there is no there, I think is what they always say. Whatever pyramid you're trying to get to, it's like quicksand. It
Yep.
continuously kind of
Being ambitious is a prison.
I come from a mother who I never saw sit down. My father, I only saw sit down. And so I think, yeah, whatever you grow up with as maybe values, that's also, I think, part of growing up is like, why did my mom think she couldn't sit down? Like,
Mhm.
why was that instilled in me? That's not, it's okay to sit down. It's
Of
okay to
course.
like rest.
Yeah.
But you grow up in a certain way and you think that's the universe. Like those are the laws of the world. And then you're like, no, those are the laws in my weirdo house.
1,000%. And there was so much like interrelational chaos in my house. My
Mm,
parents hated each other, and then my dad and my grandparents, his in laws, there were issues. And then, I have two stepbrothers now, but I'm an only child. And
yeah.
so I was raised like just kind of, I had a ton of time to myself, like latchkey a little bit, and
Yeah.
then
Me
very
too.
much like, oh, if someone acknowledged me, nobody baby voiced me, right? Like I was
Right.
spoken to like I was an adult. And
Yeah.
the times that I got the most positive reinforcement was when I was like being entertaining, when I would put a curtain on
It's
and pretend it was like a dress.
totally.
Uh,
It's like, of
There,
course.
lo and behold, this is who I've turned
Of
into.
course, you become a performer. Yeah. And I think probably if you were given, not that anyone is given the exact right amount of attention,
Mhm.
but I think the closer you were given, and I'm not giving some grand theory of like performance, but I think the closer you were given to the like right amount of attention, probably the less desire you have to be famous, to perform, I do think as I get older, any desire I might have once had to be like famous person, it has gone out the window because it
Mhm.
looks so awful. Like
It
through
does look
like to
really
be a
terrible.
famous woman. Like what sounds good to me is to be like successful so that only other people who do it know
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
But like yeah, just to be a woman like online is
To be a
so
female comedian online, I'm pretty sure we're the most
I guess
hated
that's what I mean.
subset.
Yeah, not just a woman online, but even I'm sure like women who are just influencers, I'm sure they're getting it's like you feel suddenly like you're an influencer, but you hadn't meant to be. I'm like, no, I'm a writer and a comedian. And yet somehow I now have to be
Mhm.
an influencer and men are screaming at me. And I'm like,
Yeah,
how
the
did I get
goalposts
here?
moved
Yeah,
because
I'm like,
when
oh,
we
you guys
started, it
tricked
wasn't
me.
that.
That's what I'm and like by you guys, I don't know who I'm talking to. But I'm like, yeah, if you'd have told me I started like 8 years ago, if you would have told me that I would have had to record myself and
Yeah.
I would have been like, no, that's not what I want. I'm not, yeah.
Well, it was so many different things when we started. It was like go be on Conan, go do your 5-minute set on Conan, go do
Yeah.
a Comedy Central half hour, and now it's
Yeah.
go get 2 million followers on TikTok. It
Yeah.
just totally changed, and I don't know if I would have. I mean, maybe I would have still done it if I knew that that was where it was going, but I think I would have just moved differently. And I
Mhm.
have a lot of the like perfectionism issues come up for me in the fact that
Totally.
like I started doing some of those things late or maybe I've done
Totally.
them and they haven't worked, and then you kind of feel like even when they do work, you're on a bit of a hamster wheel with it because
Yeah. Well, then there's always
attention
something
spans are so short.
new. Yeah, and I do think the only way is to get off the
Yeah.
hamster wheel, although
But
I
then what
say
am I
this
gonna do?
no, listen, I say I'm off the hamster, I'm still,
Mhm.
I pay someone to cut up clips for me,
Yeah.
and and I'm like, "You post them."
That's the
I'm
smart way
not
of
gonna
doing it.
post them, yeah, but I still think it seems helpful to me to remember, like, why we wanted it in the first place. And I still love being on stage, and I love, like, having conversations like this.
Mhm.
So I'm like, as long as I can keep doing that. And I
Yeah,
love reading, I love writing.
that's the goal.
That's the goal. Yeah. The fact that, I get to do it every day, I, like, forget to be grateful about it because I'm always, like, complaining about something.
Yeah, but everything I saw, even Dave Chappelle, like, I saw him have the most human moment one time of, like, walking to the back area of the Comedy Store and scanning the area to see if he saw someone he knew, and he didn't. And I just kinda it just for a second, he, like, looked down and his posture changed. And I'm like, "I know that guy has his own complaints."
Of
Like, I
course,
know
of course.
he's made it to the pinnacle of what this career can be, and he still has his human moments that he can't get out from under,
I
and
mean, that's why Rodney Dangerfield said the, like, "I don't get no respect" thing was so popular because
Mhm.
there is not a person on earth, CEO or custodian, who feels like they get the right amount of respect. And I think I'm always thinking about this idea of, like, comedians are so sort of competitive by nature, but so is, so are writers, so is every industry.
Yeah. Anyone ambitious is gonna have that.
I mean, I was in a coffee shop and I was, like, listening to magicians talk. I've always
What
wanted
were
to
they
write a joke
saying?
about it. They were, like, talking about all the magicians they know who are, like, hacks, have,
Oh.
like, who have spots in the magic
Oh,
castle.
so they have the same exact issues we do?
And the one magician to the other was like, he can't even do a basic rope trick. He can't even do basic cards, and he's on the main stage? But the other crazy thing is it was a male magician and a female magician, and he was, like, explaining magic to her, and she
Oh,
was like,
no.
"I'm a magician too." Like, you're not I'm just like, it doesn't matter the industry. It's always, like, some man explaining to you how it works.
Ugh.
And then I'm like, in medieval Europe, where people like, "Gustav gets to bring the bread to the king?" Like, Gustav's no, I bring the bread.
There's only one bread bringer in this castle,
I
and
like,
it's
what?
me.
It's Gustav? It can't be Gustav.
Gustav stole his bread bringing technique from I
Totally.
can't even think of any
Gustav's a hack. Gustav drags the bread. There's not a person on earth who thinks they're, like, getting their due, and I think that's so relaxing to think about.
Yeah, when you put it that way, it absolutely is. The freedom that we should get out of that, but then there's this resistance, like, "No, I don't wanna take the path that helps me feel better." Like, what do I do if I set my anxiety down for a second?
I think also the resistance of being like, "I'm like everyone else," because there's, like, some you wanna be like, "No, I'm, like, special," and
Mhm.
then in reality, it's like, "Oh, I'm like every other person that's ever existed."
I mean, nothing makes me feel less special than being a single lady in her 30s living in LA, so I think I'm
You're okay. You're like, "I trust me, I don't feel special."
yeah, I don't feel special at all.
Um,
All I have to do is open up an app and
and look at all the freaky men.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, how has dating been for you? Let's get on that. Is
excruciating.
there anyone new? Not you can't say names, but
No,
anything new?
there's nothing happening. There's less than nothing happening.
Yeah, I'd like to set you up. I'm sure I've said that before.
I would like to be set up,
I'm
yeah.
obsessed with setting people up, and I've never done it successfully. So
I've never
don't
even heard of it. I don't know anyone that's been set up.
I feel like people have met, like, at parties.
Yeah, I have people I'd like to be set up with.
Okay, well, do I know any of them? Let me
No.
know. Like, famous actors.
No, I did pay to DM someone on Raya.
Oh, and?
Nothing.
You're like, "Why did I fucking pay for this?"
I was like, "This is the reason I downloaded this app," and that was
I mean,
6
I feel
months ago,
like
and
online
nothing.
dating, it's the same thing is happening at that what happens with social media where everyone's kind of like, "I don't like it. We all don't like it. Like, why are
Yep.
we still doing it?" And it seems to me the same with dating apps that people are like, "I
Mhm.
don't like it. There's gotta be another way." And yet you're just like, "But what is the other way?"
What is the other way? And I'm now because, like, literally nothing matters and we're all gonna die, I'll slide into DMs now.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
I think sliding into DMs
Nothing's
is
come of it yet, but
good.
I'm doing it. I think a part of it too is just to, like, train myself to be less afraid of it and for
Yeah,
it to be less of a shock to my system or not be a shock at all when, like, I don't get the response I wanna get.
right. It's like, what's the worst that can happen? Someone's like, "Oh, I'm already dating someone," and then you're
Exactly.
like, "Okay."
It doesn't matter at all. And then I'm trying to implement it a little bit in person because I do see people I'm attracted to, like, out in the wild, as I
And
call
I
it,
bet you're
more than on
someone
apps.
yeah, and I bet you're someone who they wouldn't know that you were at all attracted to them.
Right.
Like, I don't know that you're giving off the vibe of like, "Oh, she's into me."
Mhm.
You probably, like, say one more word to them than, like, you
I
would.
try to do eye contact, but then it's
Okay.
so scary.
You're like, "Yeah."
Yeah. Like, "Oh, you have something in your teeth."
Yeah, they're like, "Why are you staring at me like that?"
Apparently, you're supposed to do the look back, which I'm like, nothing seems more terrifying than seeing someone
Yeah, or
cute and
you're,
then
like,
doing a look
doing that, and
back.
then you realize they're not even looking at me. They don't see that I'm, like, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. As I've said many times before, if my current relationship ends, great guy, shout out, friend of the pod, my boyfriend. I'll be done with men and
Mhm.
I'll date women. I think I've been with every man there is to be with, like, the kind of man. Like, I've done and I've had good experiences with men. I'm
Mhm.
not one of those. I feel like I'm about to quote a poem I like, but,
Please do.
men have been very good to me, and still I'm just like, "This is wrapping it up.
Mhm.
This is gonna be the." And when I tell my boyfriend, I'm like, "Yeah, you're the last man I'm dating." And he's like, "You mean last person?" And I'm like, "That's not what I said." Great. I'm so fun.
Uh, I
Um,
believe I'm not a cynic, even though it's really, really easy to be. Um,
yeah. In LA, I think especially, yeah.
Everywhere though, because like where I grew up in the Midwest, like men are alcoholics and they don't even know it. At least here
Right.
they know it. At least the ones I date here are in program.
Yeah, like the ones in the Midwest are just like in pain and unable to look at it. And the
Yeah.
men in LA are like, I'm in pain.
Look at it.
Yeah.
I posted it on my story. Please look at it.
I'm trying to monetize it. I'm in pain and I want to monetize it. Yeah, no,
So there is
totally.
that. And then there's like I have good men in my life that are examples and I know
Yeah,
other people's partners that I'm like,
right.
okay,
This is a
they
good
exist.
person.
The
Yeah,
evidence is there that they exist. It's
yeah,
just truly, truly you're looking for a needle in a haystack.
yeah.
And not even unfortunately I'm picky. I'm glad that I'm picky
Yes.
because the things that
What
I
you
put
have
up with when I was in my 20s, I could never do that to myself again. I really would rather die alone than be in like a
and what
dysfunctional
you've
relationship.
saved, like, in terms of time and energy and yeah, I mean, I think
Correct.
that's also part of it is, like, we're still hung up on stuff that culture like, there are still things that I can't figure out if I want or if, like, the culture has told me I want or, like, my mom has told me I want, like, marriage and children. My
No
mom's
one
actually
wants me to be in a relationship more than my
my
mother.
mom's actually very chill and is sort of like, um it's probably more my dad who, like, wants those traditional things for me, but I'm jealous, I think my mom always knew she wanted to have children, and she was like, "If I hadn't met dad, like, I would have had a child on my own," and I'm like, I'm so jealous to have had such a passionate feeling about that kind of thing.
Mhm.
I have a passionate feeling about my career, but I, like, don't know, children, I'm very much like, I could maybe, I could not, but we're returning back to the egg freezing thing,
We
but I'm
are.
like, I wish I had a stronger feeling one way or another.
That's how I feel too, because I never was like 100% I don't want kids, but I was teetering around 90% I
Yeah.
don't want them until my nephew was born. And then now I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe for the right person, maybe I want the option, maybe I should put some on ice.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's what
I
I
feel
think
the
it
same way.
is. It's not that I don't want children, it's that I've never been with someone who has made me want kids with them.
Yeah.
And so now I'm open to the possibility of like, well, if it's the right person and that's like a non-negotiable for them, I know how hard it is to
Yeah.
get in a good relationship. So
You would be a
maybe I'll
great
change my
mom
mind for the right person.
too, I
Thank you.
feel.
I'm such a good dog mom.
I mean, I think anybody who has, like, put so much thought into how they move through the world is,
Mhm.
like and also a lot of thought into how their parents moved through the world and how
Yeah.
would they do it differently, I think is probably gonna be pretty good. Unfortunately, so many of those people, like, who've had those thoughts are more on the fence about children.
I know that is so common. Some of the best people I know,
Are
like
like, "I don't
friendship
know,
wise,
I
they
don't
don't want
know."
kids
Yeah.
and they would be stellar parents.
I think I'd be a great dad. I'm just like a mom. Oh, all the stress on you, all the
Mhm.
guilt, mothers are always guilty of something. And fathers are always like being congratulated for like
For the smallest task.
for hanging out with the kid
Yeah,
for like a day.
for being around.
Yeah, exactly. Make a great aunt.
That part is scary because I already exist in this space of, I'm not doing enough,
Oh,
and I shouldn't need 8
tremendous.
hours of sleep, and, oh my god, I will get up in the morning and have 25 things on the to-do list and check 24 off and go to sleep feeling shitty about the 25th.
Tremendous guilt and
Yes.
like, yeah, totally. No, I feel that way too. And I'm like, well, how also like, yeah, how would that guilt kind of transfer over to the child without
Mhm.
me? I think a lot of why we, like, feel guilty and we don't understand is, like, our parents' guilt that they accidentally sloughed off onto us, which is also our grandparents' guilt, and their
It just
grandparents'
gets
guilt.
worse from
Yeah,
there.
and it's like, yeah, I think probably as far as I can tell, and maybe every generation says this, we're doing the best job of, like, kinda shaking things out and being like, "Ah, this I'm not gonna do this the same way again."
Mhm. I wanna ask you, because I just saw, your joke that was posted on OnlyFans about, watching porn and
Porn, oh,
seeing
yeah.
books in the background.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And this is something I thought about. What is like, let's say I'm going to a guy's house.
Mm.
I'm judging it.
I also gotta say, I've changed my mind about this because,
Mhm.
I date someone who does not read.
That is so fascinating.
Yeah.
Because I get so many first of all, I always get book recommendations from you whenever you post a
Oh,
book.
good, thank
I
you.
will read it, and I have never not loved something that you've
Oh, good,
posted.
I'm so glad.
So that makes me that's like
Thank
a
you.
huge
No, it's been
value
I
add.
think I used to think that that was a non-negotiable, that I would never date someone who didn't read.
Mhm.
And then I started dating my boyfriend who I met on Raya, who works in sports, and I was like, "I'm not dating this guy seriously. Like, this is just a guy I'm, like, sleeping with. He doesn't read." That's what I kept saying in
Mhm.
my mind.
Yeah.
"He doesn't read!"
Yeah.
And then, I don't know. I think maybe part of it was because I thought I wouldn't date him, I put so little pressure on the situation that then all of a sudden I looked up and 5 years had passed. Um, and he's like, he will be like, I read a book, and the book's like Malcolm Gladwell, like Outliers or like something so not the kind of stuff that I
Mhm.
and like he read a short story of mine, that came out in a magazine I'd always wanted to be in, and he was like, "Oh, very descriptive." Like he doesn't know anything, but I think it's like he takes such an interest that it turned out that that was what was most important to me is
Mhm.
not that someone is a reader necessarily, but that they take an interest in the things that I'm like interested in and try to sort of um understand.
That's
Yeah.
the perfect way to decipher it. Is there a book on a guy's shelf that you're like, "This is a red flag"?
Honestly, I'm just so amazed when a guy has books, unfortunately. That I'm like, "You have books? Have you actually read these?" I'm like opening them and like looking. I mean, there's no, like, red flag I can think of other than, like, Mein Kampf, you
Yeah.
know? That would be, like that
That's
would
bad.
freak me
Yeah.
out.
Or The
Oh, maybe,
Game.
like, yeah, the game, maybe, like, uh, mm, there'd be, like I'd be told there'd be beer in hell, something like
Oh,
that, like,
yeah.
man memoir. But I honestly
Dave
feel like
Portnoy type
my
content or
boyfriend the
something.
books on my boyfriend's shelves, I thought were
Mhm.
deal breakers
Oh,
for me, and
hilarious.
said it out loud. I think
Mhm.
this is also why this relationship has worked is that I from the moment I met him, I was like, "You are not the kinda guy I would date," and
Mhm.
just held nothing back so that even stuff like that, I'll be like, you know I mean, sometimes I think I maybe made too much fun of him at the beginning and probably on stage, and I've obviously stopped that after so many years, but I think this feeling of, like, this person the thing that impresses me the most about him is how comfortable he is with himself so that when I make fun of him, he has no, um like, he's genuinely delighted by being made fun of. Like, it doesn't, like, cut down his ego in some way.
That's what it sounds like, right? When you said that, I was like, "Oh, that means his ego is in check," and that's
Yes,
so
yes.
valuable.
Yes, and that he's not, like, I think was so much more than me. I think I way more am, like, looking to other people to kind of tell me I'm okay
Mhm.
and good and smart and funny and interesting, and I think he's not looking for other people to give him something, which is, like, remarkable.
Well, I think you found what is now in the lexicon being called the black cat golden retriever dynamic,
Uh,
where you're the black cat and he's the
well,
golden
I'm a wiener
retriever.
dog, but yeah, a wiener dog. But yeah, I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
This is what happens when I stay off of TikTok, is I've never felt older. I like, my students say things and I go, "What? What?" And they go, "You don't know?" And I'm like, "No, you have to tell me.
Oh, I would know.
You would
But I
know."
got sucked into TikTok, and, the way that I describe it is
People
always
get very smart, cool people. Blair Saki, shout out to the pod from friend
friend
of
of
the
the
pod,
pod.
was just telling me that she's on TikTok late at night, that it's so
So am I.
hard to kind of, you know
It is. It's this. Okay, so, like, the discovery page on Instagram, right? The Instagram algorithm shows me things that on the surface level, I know I like, and that other people could probably guess, "Oh, Galina's Instagram
Yeah,
is gonna have Pomeranians and
of
surfing,"
course.
and it
Yeah,
does.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
My TikTok algorithm has, like, my deep, dark secrets in there. It has figured
Yeah.
out the
How does
things
it do that?
I guess because that's what I'm interacting with.
It, like, knows you.
It knows me. It's kind of daunting how well it knows me.
I, yeah, and I do use I'm trying to use TikTok as, like, a open mic where I, like, have a premise and I'll, like,
Mhm.
say something, and I said something once jokingly, so I'm really weird about pillows, and I have these 2 flat pillows, I call them Flatty. Flatty 1, Flatty 2, they're both boys, and I have to sleep with them, and every night when I sleep at my boyfriend's, I have to he'll go, "Are you bringing Flatties?" And sometimes I'll only bring 1. If I travel, sometimes I can't fit both Flatties, I bring 1, I'm like, "I brought Flatty 1, next time I'll bring Flatty 2." Like, it's just very weird, and my dad called and was like, "You left your Flatties here," and he was, like, in public, and everybody's listening to him, and I, like, and then, people were in the comments were like, "Why did I get sent this? Like, I have a Flatty. Like, how did it know?" And I was like,
Oh, see,
"Crazy.
it does that. It does that.
Flatty hive, rise up. You have a weird flat pillow." I know and they're disgusting. Like, they're lumpy, they're flat. I've, like, slept on them for 30 years. It's, like, so creepy.
So since you're not on there, does that mean you haven't seen Moodang?
No, I have a little so like, go on there, I just think I also have a very addictive personality. I mean, who among
Who
us?
doesn't? Yeah.
But I think, like, comedians, especially obsessive personality maybe is better than addictive. It's like I'm having such an issue with poker and not, letting it ruin my life. And I think the minute I, like, opened TikTok, I was like, "This you have to be careful with this." So I've sort of decided that I can't let myself scroll, but I will, like, maybe 1 or 2 things I'll, like, see on the homepage
I don't know how you
or
resist it, but I do the same thing where, like, I will not open TikTok until right before bed. That is the time that
yeah,
I let myself binge it.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I am then on it for
Well, yeah, and then
30 to
I
90
think
minutes.
that time right before you go to bed is,
Mhm.
like, that's when your brain should be, like you obviously
Shutting
know this
down.
because 'cause I'm
I
sure you've
have no
listened to
trouble.
50 podcasts about this, but your brain yeah, you should be, like, reading a book, your brain should be,
Mhm.
you know.
But I'm very lucky in that I'm not a person with sleep issues.
Oh, you are so
I
lucky.
am, yeah. I think it's everything else that I do, right? Because
I was
it's
gonna say I'm surprised by that. I would've thought you'd be like me, like
yeah,
insomnia.
no, I don't, but I'm having a dog means I'm out in the daylight first thing in the morning every morning, no
Yeah.
matter what. So,
Yeah.
like, my circadian rhythm is very much, like, locked in.
Yeah.
And then also, I'm very physically active throughout the day. So, like, I'm tired and then I smoke weed at night.
Okay.
So, there's the
Yeah.
second I, like, turn the app off, I'll turn on, like, an
And pick
insight
up a
meditation just so I can let it, like,
okay, I
subconsciously
think
sink in.
I need to get, like, on a better
Yeah.
the one thing that helps me is reading. I think what's bad is, like, doing stand-up and having 2 drinks because it's
Mhm.
like, I'm a little keyed up,
Yeah.
like, the 1 to 2 drinks, it's like I don't really feel like reading, and then I'm kind of, like, tossing and turning,
It's very disruptive,
and that'll
our
happen, like,
schedules.
5 times out of the week, and
Mm.
then I'm just like, number 1, too many drinks, and number 2, it's like, yeah, I'm just like, I gotta get on. I don't do you wake up early?
No, I get up at, like, 8.
Oh, well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, unless I have to I try not to set an alarm unless I have a flight.
And you wake up naturally at 8.
I wake up naturally at 8,
I have
yeah.
to, like
I sleep basically from, like, midnight to 8 every night,
hmm,
most nights.
I, like, pry myself up in the morning, I'm, like, not a morning, and I need caffeine.
I need caffeine, but I do push my caffeine, like, I will walk the dog first,
Okay.
and then I'll feed him, and then I'll drink, it how do you say it in English? Kefir?
I think that's
Kefir?
good, yeah.
I only know I grew up with it in the house, so it was kefir, which is, like, the
Oh,
Russian
I was like, "Okay, I
pronunciation.
like that." That sounds right to
So
me.
every time I go to say it in English, I get self-conscious because 'cause I'm like, I'm saying it
No,
in
I'm like,
Russian, I don't know how.
you're saying it the right way, I think.
I turn into one of those people where it's like an Italian person goes,
Yeah.
spaghetti,"
Or
and
like,
it's like,
"Oh,
"Okay."
guacamole." Yeah.
So it's that with kefir.
Margarita. You're like, "Shut up."
So I'll have that, and I'll have quite a bit of water first, so I'm not
Mm.
actually drinking coffee until I've been awake for at least, like,
See,
an
I'm
hour.
not. I'm taking the coffee, going back into my
Mhm.
bed to, like, read a book
I get
before
back
I
into
can,
bed
like,
and read
let
with my coffee
myself yeah.
too.
Which one of the things I'm trying to do is not look at my phone
Mhm.
in the morning or at night.
Are you good
Whether
at
it's
that?
games, I know that I feel better when I read in the morning and when I read at night. I know that, like, bookending my day by reading it's just I think one of the most annoying things about, like, being a human is
Mhm.
knowing what's good for you and then not doing it. That's also, like, every character in every novel I like
That's so wise.
is, like, a character who knows what they should do and
Yeah.
doesn't do it.
Um, where are you getting, like, your books? How do you figure out what you wanna read
Well, that's a
next?
great question. I work for a company. I don't wanna say the name because 'cause I'm sure I've said rude things about my job.
Mhm.
Um, Great company.
Yeah. You don't have to say what
Yeah,
company it is.
but I run book clubs for wealthy women in Los Angeles,
Mhm.
and, we work for a company, and so it's, like, just part of my job to be kind of up on contemporary fiction that's coming out, and the company is me we have, like, an email chain where we kind of discuss what books we think will be, like, good that are coming out, but I still constantly miss books.
Mhm.
It's like anything you're interested in, I'm just on top of it, so I, like, just happen to know kind of what's always coming out, but I'm having a tough time, honestly. I can't wait till my books till I don't have to think about it anymore, till
Yeah.
I'm, like, stressed out about how people are gonna
When are you
like
gonna be
it.
done?
Soon,
Yeah.
soon, yeah, but I think, I haven't been able to read in the same way, like books I love, they either remind me about what my own book is not doing or what it could be doing. Bad books make me worry that my book is like it,
Mhm.
and great books make me worry my book is nothing like it.
Oh,
So I'm
no.
just, like, having a in a good way too.
Mhm.
It's like books I only ever wanted to write because I love to read. My least favorite kind of person is someone who says they wanna write and they don't read. I'm like, "Well,
That
then,
is crazy.
like, what?" That's like people wanna do stand-up and they never have seen stand-up. It's
Mhm.
like, that's kooky.
When is it supposed to come out?
Was supposed to come out, last year, but it's it's taking a little
I don't mean to put you on the
No, no.
spot.
No, it'll, I think, come out next July, and I'm finally in, like, the last edits I got back were finally, like, it's good. It was, like, the first kinda, like it's because I had never written a novel before, and I sold it on 30 pages, and it was exciting but stressful, and I don't think I'll do it again this way. I plan to write it first and then but again, it's, like, difficult for me to get things done without what feels like a gun to my head, like a pressing, and maybe I needed this in order
Yeah.
to force myself to write a novel.
But you're learning by example, and it will be
And I'm
different next
learning
time.
yes, yes, and I'm amazed, honestly, I'm amazed that I've, like, done it. I'm, like, proud of myself. It's so hard for me to say that, that I'm proud of myself.
Well, that's a good place to,
Uh,
wrap it up. Amy Silverberg, where can people find you? What do you have going
yes,
on?
I have a website, amysilverberg.com. I'm on Instagram at Amy Silverberg, Twitter at Amy Silverberg, TikTok at Amy Silverberg Rules. I put up jokes occasionally, and my novel, look out for it. It's called First Time, Long Time.
Yay, that's so
Thank
exciting.
you.
And you have a bunch of tour dates. Those are on
Yeah,
your website?
when does this come out?
Soon.
I'll be in San Diego next month and Northern California and Denver and places like that.
Amazing. Thanks so much for doing the show, and thank you everybody for listening.
Thank you for having
Bye.
me.